The 1950s and the 2000s. With such drastic differences between these two eras, how could they even remotely compare? The 1950s fathomed in its greaser hairstyles, sock hops, and poodle skirts. These times remain admirable in their styles and morals decades after their passing. Fast forward 60 years to the 2000s. The technologically advanced era. The selfie generation. The 2000s completely transformed traditional living with the introduction of touchscreens, emails, iPhones, iPods, you name it. This new introduction of technology completely remastered our times of living. Let us retrace back to the time where teens used typewriters and phonographs, and a date meant drive-in movies. Taking a closer look into fashion, gender roles, and social norms, we will discover the similarities and differences between these two periods of time. Fashion. The 50s was a time in which fashion, for both men and women, had drastically evolved. Teenagers became more materialistic, and the idea of fashion became an important social law. Teenage boys would dress in leather jackets and the famous Levi jeans, imitating famous pop celebrities. While girls wouldn't wear jeans or sport leather jackets, they had their own unique sense of style. Floral bright colors and poodle skirts were what the closet of a typical 50s teenage girl consisted of. The teens ran the fashion economy and collectively invested $1 million a year. While Levi jeans and poodle skirts aren't all the hip now, we teens have our own sense of style. Boys' clothing consists of low-riding jeans rather than their placement on the hips, and belts are not as widely used as before. Although leather jackets are not nearly as popular as in the 50s, sports jackets are. T-shirts and tank tops are commonly worn by boys as well as girls, along with jeans, which was frowned upon in the 50s. Girls still incorporate floral and colorful clothing, yet dresses and shorts rarely reach beneath the knees. Girls' clothing is more low-cut and provocative in comparison with clothing from the 50s. Both genders are free to wear what they please without the fear of being judged. Gender roles. Most people refer to the 50s as simpler times. Glamorizing this period in our history may seem modest, yet the more accurate term to describe the 50s would be the simple-minded times. These unjust times allowed men more liberty than women. The male specimen was claimed as the superior gender. A man was able to make decisions, earn an education, run a business, and rule the household woman had been entrapped in. Women were expected to reside in the home, providing food, children, and clean home for the husband. Marriage was forced upon a woman, and her only aspiration was meant to be providing for her husband. The thought of a woman providing for her family was frowned upon and rather claimed as crazy. Leaping through this tunnel of segregation to today's times, women are held at a much higher respect to men. Education is available and insisted upon on all genders, and jobs are available to both genders. Women have the ability to hold jobs of power and are encouraged to progress rather than forced into motherhood. The common household now consists of a mother and a father providing a dual income. However, some sexism still remains in our present times. While women have branched out into the workforce and have more job options, their pay is still nearly 23% less than a man's, even when they adhere to the same amount of work for the same amount of hours. Social life. Youth culture changed immensely in the 50s. Hanging out with friends meant drive-in movie dates, soda parlors, and of course the trademark jukebox dancing parties. They had a swell way of speaking and were very conservative with any physical affection. TV shows portrayed couples sleeping on separate beds to allow for an untainted way of thinking. In our modern times, conservative doesn't come into play when dealing with affection. TV shows, poster ads, videos, you name it. It probably includes some sort of physical interaction. Even teenagers' actions are not monitored, and most high schoolers are able to interact with the opposite gender to a much more extreme level than our friends back in the 50s. There are no limits to the places teens can hang out with their friends nowadays, but these moments are spent with the phones glued to their hands. Undoubtedly, the difference in these two separate times are countless, yet many similarities remain. These years helped shape what our society views as norms today. Many of the things that took place in the 50s have improved over the time. People have become more open-minded, accepting, and more diverse. Hopefully, things will keep improving and our grandchildren will have a better place to live in the next 60 years.